Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shawna Khalafi. Australia has officially begun enforcing its ban on social media for kids. This is a post from Reuters on X. It says Australia became the first country to ban social media for children younger than 16, blocking platforms including TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. They also said Australia's ban on social media for children younger than 16 is being closely watched by other nations amid concerns about online safety and health. Now, one of those nations that is considering following suit with Australia is the U.S., as lawmakers in Washington are now considering whether they should do the same. Fox's Rebecca Castor has those details.
Wednesday, Aussie teens are coming to grips with the fact they can no longer scroll for hours on TikTok or Instagram, with the country's teen social media ban officially in effect.
As young Australians, we will be completely silenced and cut off from our country and the rest of the world with this ban.
Australia's Prime Minister says the ban's a necessary step to keep kids safe from online bullies and mental health risks.
It is about our families taking back control. Technology can have an amazing impact on making our life easier. But it is important as technology develops that humans keep control.
It's caught the attention of Washington, and former Chicago mayor and White House chief of staff Rahm Emanuel wants lawmakers to take action.
Look, when it comes to our adolescents, it's either going to be adults or the algorithms. One of them is going to raise the kids.
Bills with similar bans haven't gained much momentum in Congress because of concerns they would infringe on free speech. But lawmakers on both sides say it's worth revisiting.
You know, there's a lot of equities you'd have to work out around liberties and freedoms. Sadly, the Congress has utterly failed to put in place any regulation that would help protect the harm. So maybe these more aggressive measures make some sense.
D.C. needs to do something. They need to take a step back from the grip that big tech has on them and think about their children and the next generation.
Several U.S. states already require parental consent for teens on social media, while Florida's law banning teens under 13 was just approved in federal court last week. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
Now, under this new law, 10 of the biggest social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, must prohibit underage users under the age of 16, or they could face a fine. Now, let's bring in a local who is actually feeling the effects of this. We have Cam Wilson from Crikey News joining us live in Australia. Thanks for being here with us.
Hi, good to be here. And I know I do look young, but I'm not under 16, so it's not fully affecting me.
It's not directly affecting you, but you are seeing what the fallout of this is, right? There's been a big reaction there in Australia. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, so the ban, the law behind it actually was passed over a year ago, and there was this 12-month lead-in to figure out the details about how the government would implement it, and more importantly, how the government would make these tech platforms implement it. Come yesterday, December 10, the day that millions of Australian teenagers who between the ages of 13 and 16, who were supposed to be kicked off social media, it was a day that there were a few stumbles. I would say that one of the major news stories of yesterday was that many teens were simply able to get around it. They didn't even have to go to alternative platforms. They didn't even need to get their parents to, give them their ID or scan their face. But they were able to fool the systems of many of the major platforms to convince them that they were over 16 and to keep access. And so, they're doing everything from scrunching up their faces to make it look like they've got more wrinkles, so the machine thought they were a bit older, or putting on makeup, all these kinds of things to essentially be able to stay on. Now, the government has said, hey, this system, although we've had a year lead in, is not going to be perfect. It's an ongoing process. We expect these platforms to keep on checking the ages of their users, but you wouldn't say it was a dream start for the government.
Yeah, like you mentioned, even after this is being enforced, we're still seeing some Australian users who are claiming to be under 16 but still have active accounts, and they're kind of trolling on social media now too, leaving comments, kind of letting people know that they're still allowed there. So can you tell us about some of this activity on social media still?
Yeah, it's a very Australian thing. We love to think that we're larrikins. We love to think that we speak, we treat everyone the same and speak truth to power, even, the most powerful people in the country. And you saw that in action with the comment sections of the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, who was talking about this morning, the teens are going to be off it. They're going to start their day differently without social media. But looking in the comment section, there are a lot of people who claim to be teens who are saying, I'm still here. You haven't got me off. So yes, there were teens, boasting about the fact that they were able to get around it. There were teens sharing techniques about how to get around it. In fact, there was even a video from a mum who actually said, the teen social media ban did kind of work in a way because I did see kids interacting offline. They were all talking about how they could get around the ban, sharing tips and tricks to get around it. So, yes, I think one of the big stories of the first day was that it is not a perfect system. The government from the start has said, we don't expect this to be perfect. We, in fact, think that it will get better over time. And also, we think, some of the methods that we use to be constantly monitoring users, to be checking if they do things that indicate their age. For example, we know Meta, which owns Facebook, actually has an algorithm that analyzes posts that you post online. And if you suddenly get posts saying, I had a great time at your 12th birthday, they're going to know that your account probably doesn't belong to a 65-year-old as you told them. And so maybe they need to do something else. And those other things are primarily either scanning your face with a kind of video selfie to analyze your age, or to upload your government ID. And that has been something that a lot of people have already been doing.
And as we just heard in our earlier reports, other countries are closely watching this, considering whether they should do the same, including here in the U.S. From your perspective, seeing the effects of this in real time, do you think this is something that could lead to stricter social media restrictions even worldwide?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of interest in this. And I think that although we've spoken of today about how, the Great Firewall of Australia, still has a couple of holes in it, I do think that what the government is really looking for, in fact, what all people are looking for, whether they kind of criticize the ban or really support it, everyone is kind of concerned about the well-being of kids. And so they fundamentally do want to see kids avoid the harms that we do know happen from social media. And the test of that isn't going to happen, on day one. It's not going to be just who got kicked off TikTok and Facebook in the first place, but it's going to be looking at how teens go over time. Australia will be looking at it. In fact, we actually have a government-run study that will be looking at things of measures of mental health, measures of how they use technology, all kinds of things, and comparing that data from before and after to help us understand what the effects of this policy were. And I imagine that people all around the world will also be paying attention to how it goes for us.
Yeah, we will definitely be paying attention here in the U.S. as well. Thank you so much for your insight, Cam Wilson from Crikey News. It was nice having you on.